Hi everybody, I just wanted to preface this episode of the Blacktown Premier League podcast by reminding you that you are valued and you are important. I'm sorry this is not quite the theatrics and drama that you're used to at the start of each episode, we'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to take the time to remind you that it is okay to speak to people and ask for help, ask for guidance, ask for forgiveness. Please don't be afraid to talk to people, keep your options open. There are people out there close to you and people who you don't even realise care about you to the extent that they do. So be sure to always lean on your support networks in times of need. Please keep an outwards look on life. Remember that you are loved, and if you can't find someone to talk to, come and speak to me. Let's get into the episode now.
We know we're right there, we're just sort of that 5-10% away, so we're looking forward to building on that.
Yeah, it's pretty horrific at first. When I just heard it pop in my head, I just started yelling and then obviously went down to the hospital. Had the surgery the next day.
Yeah, look, that's probably the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, if I had the answers for you, I think, we might be top three.
It's been really good having him around. He's gone sort of MIA for about 3 or 4 weeks now, so we're keen to get the big fella back.
Like you're saying, some people might agree, some might not. I think we have a squad to finish top three.
Hopefully my physio's not watching this because she'd be very upset. I think it was just an ugly game. You come down the Chopping Park when it's raining and it's a disgrace. So
we're starting off very strong and we're playing good football, but then we're falling asleep for 2 or 3 minutes, and then in this league, fall asleep for a couple of minutes, you can find yourself 2-3-0 down.
Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome back to the Blacktown Premier League podcast. My name is Mark DePoli. It is an absolute pleasure to have you back here. And why is that? Well, that's because we have a fully hectic match of the round coming up for you this weekend on, of course, Saturday night. It's live right here at Blacktown Football Park, 7 p.m. on Saturday night. Make sure you're there. Today is a fantastic day because why? Because Ange Postecoglou is the greatest manager in footballing history, and the match of the round is only a couple of days away. And you get to speak to me again. If you're liking what you're seeing each week on the podcast, don't forget to press like and cue the intro music. Here come Workers on! But it's fallen here towards Icon!
Oh my word.
To find her teammate in Izzy Grant! And now played and struck and in! People, Ryan Dominici! Further forward now to Mura!
We're all ready to play, and yeah, we'll go out and smoke it this time.
As you saw by the intro, you can tell that this episode is going to be a good one. It's two teams who are in similar situations on the table, but both, for very, again, similar reasons, desperately need a win. As you've already watched, both teams think that they can make the top four and make a finals push towards the end of the season. Great. But if they want to do that, coming into round 7 and 8, they need to prove that. That's why this is an important match of the round podcast, and that's why this Saturday 7 p.m. is an important match of the round. Let's not delay any further. Let's get into some results so that we can get into those interviews. Hope you're enjoying the highlights of some match of the round games from around the grounds. As you know, on Sunday in the Lang & Simmons Blacktown Men's Premier League 1, Workers 4 over Eastern Creek 2 in a hugely important game, especially for those Workers boys. Liam Hamilton actually opened the scoring for Creek, before Workers then scored 1, 2, 3, 4 unanswered goals, and it wasn't until the 85th until Eastern Creek hit back to make it 4-2. One day prior, going into Saturday, of course, in the match of the round, of which the highlights you're watching right now, Marion did 4-1 over Quicker-Seal Tigers. It was a game broken open by Michael 𝗕𝗢𝗛𝗒 before 2 goals happened really quickly, including another one in the match of the round for Ayman Abdul Rasul. Elvis Enchi then brought it back into contention, but in the end of the day, Michael 𝗕𝗢𝗛𝗒, who started the day, ended it to make it 4-1. Another huge scoring result in which Rowan Iski opened it for Quakers Hill Juniors, and then it was in fact the Polonia boys who put themselves in front 2-1, and it wasn't until later on in the game where Rowan Iski again got among the goals, so did Jeff Mogger, and then Rowan Iski rounded out his hat-trick in what is proving to be a breakout season for the kid. 4-2, that means Quaker Juniors over Polonia finally making their way back into form. It puts Marion top, it puts Doonside second, it puts Pons in third, and it leaves Polonia and Tigers still with 1 point each. Polonia only last by a goal difference that's 2 worse than that of Tigers. Some cool games in the PL2 as well. Parkley have not got themselves back into form, going down to a rejuvenated and obviously inspired Blacktown St Pat's 2-0. Iyasu Buta, I'm going to show you now, scoring one of the goals of the season. Holy smoke. Glenwood and Prospect tied 1-1, first points of the season for Glenwood. Minchinbury with the game of the day over Oakville, in which Blake Curry scored 4 goals in a 5-3 victory. 8 goals on an incredible evening there. and Newbury beat Spurs 3-1. The Women's Premier League wasn't really a great showing for our ropes crossing girls, who were beaten 3-0 handsomely by the Rouse Hill Rams in the match of the round. 3-0 as well was the score in the Quakers Hill derby, where the juniors got one over their orange compatriots. Despite the fact that Isabel Grech didn't score a goal, she was the player of the match. Parkley with a return to form as well, with Grace Tangira scoring 4 of the 4 goals, and of course picking up the player of the match, the all-star specialist whose goal features in the intro and outro of our podcasts among the goals on 4 occasions. Castle Hill United picked up a 4-1 win over Kellyville United. It leaves Holroyd top with 8 wins from 8, and with Marion of course having that draw recently, it means that Marion remain 2 points behind the team from Granville. Right, as we head into the match of the round interview with Riverstone, who of course are considered the home team in this one, there are some really important things to pick up. One of those things is almost tangible in the sense that this team has come a long way since they were battling that match of the round, and we're about to meet some of the players that are responsible for the turnaround in form. I hope you enjoy, and remember, if you do even slightly get a smile or a bit of insight out of this, please remember to keep helping us smash records by pressing the like button. Riverstone Schofields find themselves with a couple of points this season, but by all accounts from some of the Premier League's biggest teams, they deserve more. We're about to find out why that is. I'm joined by Jeff Bogdan, who is of course a new coach this year, Jackson Laurie, who's been here for a couple of years and is well known, Gurgis Abdallah, who's returned from an ACL injury to be back this year, and Daniel Salinas. It's a pretty new face relative to those standing around him. Boys, thanks so much for joining me here. Jeff, I go straight to you as one of the coaches on his match of the round debut. A Rivo player turned gaffer. What persuaded you to take time out of your weekend and family life to take up a job like this?
Yeah, good question. I think, look, was always a little bit hesitant to do it just with time and family and kids. But I think, look, watching these boys last year play, I think, they deserved a lot more. They've had a couple of coaches come in and out throughout the years, and Shane, obviously, with his presidency, needs to sort of step away from that. And a lot of the boys have asked me to come over and, just have someone to play for, bring a different direction, bring some new players in. And I sort of, spoke to Jacko a couple of times in the pre-season, and just sort of made the move and just thought it was the best decision. And I'm really enjoying it, to be honest. It's, still a little bit raw, still learning, but loving the experience actually. Jackson
Laurie, you've established yourself as a pretty dominant physical centre-back. You've kept Marion to 3, which might sound like a disrespect, but it's not. Pons to 2 last week, and it took 2 wonder goals for them to actually get on top of you in the very last minutes of a midweek game. Do you feel like your boys are really competitive against these top-end established Premier League teams?
First of all, thanks for having us, Mark. Look, we do. We feel over the course of 90 minutes that we've got enough to compete with the top teams. It's just when you get to that sort of 5-10% of the game where, these other teams have the X-factor players that can bust the game open. It's probably been frustrating part of our game that we've had good opportunities, we've got in good positions, we've had some ball possession, and we just haven't been able to get that sort of goal to put some pressure on these teams. But credit to those teams, that's the reason why they're at the top of the table each year. So, we found out the hard way this year. We know what we've got to work on, and we know we're right there. We're just sort of that 5-10% away, so we're looking forward to building on that.
And we'll get to what that 5 and 10% might look like in just a bit. Gurgis, I want to go to you, as we mentioned, back from an ACL tear. So talk us about the moment it happened, and tell us a bit about your rehab journey back to where you are now.
Yeah, no problem. So towards the mid-2023, I believe, that's when it happened at our home field. It's pretty horrific at first. When I just heard it pop in my head, I just started yelling, and then obviously went down to the hospital, had the surgery the next day, and then since then it's just been recovery. I only started playing towards the end of last year. That's when I came back full training, played a bit of African Cup. Wasn't really sure where I was going to play at the start of the season. Had a chat to Jeff about my options available. He told me to come down, play, give it the best you can, and then we'll see where we go from there. So it's been slow progress, been little niggle injuries here and there, just coming back from a major injury, as this was my first major injury. But it's been pretty good.
Very well said, and back among the goals in round 1 straight away, so that must have been a really, really good feeling. Daniel, I know you're a creative midfielder. I know you'd be providing the spark at the top end of what you play. I'm a big fan of what you do. But in 3 of the 6 matches so far, River have been held goalless, which is obviously frustrating, and we're going to get into the sort of nitty-gritty of why that is now. What do you think is going wrong up top when it comes to putting the ball in the back of the net against some of the more sturdy teams, let's say?
Yeah, look, that's probably the $1 million question, isn't it? I mean, if I had the answers for you, I think, we might be top 3. Look, I think it's a new team. We've sort of built on a base from last year. I think it's just a matter of gelling. when you're bringing in new guys, new strikers, you're filling in the patchwork. I think it might take half a season to sort of get the boys going. The boys making the runs in behind, the timing, that kind of thing. I think it's just been a matter of details. A matter of details. Weight of the pass. Passing when the pass is on. I think a lot of the times we're either trying to walk the ball into the back of the net, or we're sort of just rushing the pass early on. So I think a little bit of just calm down a little bit in front of the box and make your decisions properly.
Thank you for your honesty. Jeff, I go to you. As the coach, you do have a pretty good amount of creative midfielders at your disposal from what looking at the lineups each week and the squad list tells me. Tactically, what do you tell your creative midfielders to do? Is there a chance you might be willing to put some more numbers in the box, some more targets to aim at? What is the way that you want to score goals? And how far are you away from unlocking that?
Yeah, look, I think we're pretty close. I think, as Danny was saying too, we've been super unlucky in the final third. I think we've changed our striker a couple of times as well. We've changed a couple of wingers. We're still playing the way we want to play, but I think it's just that final third, we're just missing something. But I think that'll come. I think a lot of the bigger teams, they're scoring that scrappy goal. They're scoring that 25-yard bomb where we're hitting the post, so we're not scoring those scrappy goals. I think as time goes on and as the season goes on, we're going to start to get those chances and they're going to fall in. And I think hopefully by Saturday we'll change a couple of things, mix up a few things, and I think, we're trying to put on a show on Saturday night.
Daniel, I go all the way back down to you again. You've been here obviously for a couple of years now. You might think nothing's improved. I mean, you can be honest about it, but what do you think has changed from last year to this year, and what's got you looking better?
Yeah, look, I think it's a similar team from last year, but what I would say is that we've added a little bit more depth in sort of the surrounding, the peripheries. We've always had a bit of a good nucleus sort of down the spine. I think that's what we sort of sat down and tried to do from last year, is kind of create a good strong core and then sort of build the peripheries from there. I think we've just got the depth this year, a bit more depth. We've still not had our full strength team all together. So I think once that kind of gets together, it might be a different team.
Jackson, I go to you. This being your third year at the club, and obviously you're the captain as well. The boys are going to look to you in times of need for leadership out from the back. Polonia this year, while you might have been here for a while, you've never played them before, I imagine, unless it's outside of friendlies. Obviously a promoted team, brand new, but they've got 1 point from 6. They're equal last place right now. If there was ever a time to experiment with things, at least on paper, this is the week to do it. If this is the week to find your striker who might be 18 years old, coming out from 21s, this is the week to try it, for example. So how do you see this fixture, this match of the round? And is it a chance to rotate and try new things, or is it important to stick to what's worked so far?
Look, firstly, we know there's no easy weeks in the comp. We know it's a super strong comp, and I've played across a few different competitions. I know that you can't go in any week in this competition and feel like you're going to take 3 points. So I don't think we're going to be experimenting. And to our point before, we feel like we've been in all these games with teams that are at the top of the table. So if we can bring that same energy and just execute on what we need to do, then we feel like we're going to have enough to take the 3 points. And yes, we don't know much about this team. I'm sure they don't know much about us either. But we come in and we take everyone very seriously. So they're going to have our full respect, and we're going to come in and play at a full 90.
Gurgis, you are currently the top points scorer from referees' votes for anyone that plays for Riverstone, which I guess I congratulate you for. That's awesome, especially off the back of a long-term injury layoff. Tell me, because I think you're someone who could probably play in anyone's squad, at least be involved in starting 11 at pretty much everyone's team in this competition. What is your role in this team? Are you still playing as a sort of 8? And how important do you think you are to your own team?
Yeah, because when I had a chat to Jeff at the start, I told him I play anywhere along the middle. In terms of the team, I try to do my best from the team. So we had a chat. I preferably play number 8 box to box. Sometimes I do like coming in deep to play off the centre backs as well. So it was pretty good hearing from some of the refs in some of the games saying I've been playing well as well, which is good. It's a good confidence booster for me as well. I just try and play my best for the team, put in 100% when I can, and help out wherever I can. So positioning doesn't really matter to me. As long as we are playing well as a team, that's really the first thing that I put in my mind.
Jackson, I go to you as well as the captain again. Behind you is Chris, who was trialling and training with Pons at the start of the year. Obviously, you guys have just had a game against them, and it looks like he's gone away for a little bit. So how important has he as a signing been as a very well-known Hills representative who's come across? How good's he been, and how important will he be when he gets back?
Yeah, look, Chris, the big unit, he's a great bloke and he's been a really good character around the change rooms for us. So he's sort of that energy, he brings a certain energy and uplift to the boys before the games, at training. So it's been really good having him around. He's gone sort of MIA for about 3 or 4 weeks now, so we're keen to get the big fella back. But when he does come back, we'll sort of welcome him with open arms. And he's obviously a great keeper in his own right. But we've sort of tried to keep the ship going while he's been away, and hopefully he's back soon.
Jeff, I look to you now. Quakers have a bye this weekend. They are one place above you, and Creek have Ponds, which, if everything goes well on paper at least, you'd expect Ponds to win, and obviously no points for a bye. Realistically, you could jump up to 5th if goal difference shifts considerably. How important, what's the magnitude of a win this weekend, considering some of the recent form for you guys and who you're playing?
Yeah, I think, look, any game we go into, we want to win and do a job. But yeah, look, this week's very important just to get back on our winning ways, because we haven't won a league game for a little while. But the State Cup, we're actually having a decent run at the moment, and that's been sort of re-energising the squad. We've been rotating a couple of reserve graders in there as well, and they've been doing a great job. So I think that's a bit of a confidence booster coming into this week. We've got a session tonight, and yeah, look, every game's important. But I think, look, match of the round, we want to put on a show as well. It's going to be on camera, so the boys are going to want to, do their hair, do their teeth, put the ball in the back of the net and just do a job. So I think, we want to go out there, have fun, which we have been. But as Jackson was saying too, we just got to find that extra polish, that extra 2%, and just play a full 90 minutes rather than an 85-minute performance. So that's really important.
Let's hone in on that, and I'm going to go straight back to you. What is that 2%, that 5%, that 10%? What does that look like? Or player-wise, who does that look like?
Yeah, good question. I think, look, we've been pretty stable, in our back line, in our midfield, and our front third as well. We've moved a couple of boys to the left, to the right, at 10, at striker. I think it's just what I was saying before. I think it's just the top teams, they get those little opportunities, those scrappy goals where we're not getting at the moment. And I think the tide will come, where we're going to score one. And I think once we score one, you might see a 25-yard rocket, you might see a scrappy goal in the box. I think we're going to start to get them, because I think for the boys, they deserve more than what we've been getting. Losing to Ponds 2-0, we were in that game for 83 minutes. They scored 2 25-yard bombs, which probably not many other players or teams would have scored. So you look at that, potentially a 0-0 draw. You look at Marion as well. We conceded 2 goals in 9 minutes. You can't do that against any team, especially Marion. But I wouldn't be disrespectful, but I'd say we were quite dominant for most of that game, and then they scored in the 93rd minute. So I think we've been in games, and again, I'll touch on another Doonside game. They scored in the opening 10 minutes and in the 92nd minute, I think it was. So we've been in games, teams have seen us, they've been surprised that where we're sitting. But I think it's just going to take that one goal that we wouldn't normally score these past 6 weeks to get us, in front, and then for us to go on with it. So I think time will tell, but yeah, hopefully we can do that this Saturday.
Daniel, I send this down to you as we look to wrap this up. Off the back of just mentioning the fact that you've played some really, really tough teams, and now maybe the draws are a little bit kinder to you, at least on paper. Where do you want to finish this year on the table?
Look, for me, I want to win. I want to win. I think we have the squad, and like you're saying, some people might agree, some might not. I think we have a squad to finish top 3. I think if we have all of the men there available week to week, I think no reason why we can't finish top 3. So for me, I want to definitely make finals. I haven't really had the opportunity to play finals football in Blacktown, especially in the Premier League. So for me, finals is sort of a minimum, I'd say. Yeah.
Jackson, finish this off now. You were not part of the match of the round a couple of years ago where Workers were particularly good against Riverstone. It was a very bad scoreline on that day. You were not part of that squad, but there were some of those boys that are still playing here today and have obviously learned a lot from that day. What does that speak about the morale of this squad, the togetherness of this squad, that there are some players here who, in front of a big audience, were pretty poorly humbled and have come to this point where they are now realistically thinking we can make top 4 if we push hard?
There's probably not many, to be fair with you, Mark. There's probably 2 or 3 of them, but we're talking 2 or 3 years ago, and a lot of water's gone under the bridge essentially between now and then, and you would have seen the transformation this club has gone through over those couple of years in that time. We've brought in a new coach. We've got no doubt at all he's the right man for the job. There's obviously a new leadership in town as well, so I think you could probably see better than anyone, Mark, that it's a new era at the club. We're headed in a new direction, and yes, we've got a long way to go. The results have shown that so far, but we know we're headed in the upwards direction. So we're looking forward to putting that on the board on Saturday.
Brisbane boys are certainly not here to play, and while they might have one reading on the table, perhaps the performances they've shown are going to render some very, very good results in the very near future. Boys, thanks so much for being here tonight. I really do appreciate it. Interesting that chat there with Rivers Schofields, and you can really tell from chatting to the likes of Jackson Laurie, such a sturdy guy, not just on the pitch, but in the way he speaks, very steadfast, very black and white, very to the point. Daniel Salinas, even in the way he speaks, it's a bit flary, kind of like the way he plays football as well. And then tough to look past, of course, the likes of Gurjas Abdallah, who is going to prove himself to be one of the players of the competition if he keeps it up and stays fit. Now, should we go and talk to the team that they're versing this weekend? Polonia. They found themselves in a relegation scrap. Will that stay that way? They certainly don't think so. Do you believe them? Only one way to find out. Press like if you enjoy. Really, really well handled, considering some of the tough questions I threw at them. 1 point from their opening 6 games is tough. It's pretty simple to say that it's not been good enough yet. Have the performances been there? Yes. Has that reflected into results? No. Which, funnily enough, sounds a whole lot like Tigers, and funnily enough, sounds a whole lot like Riverstone as well. That's why this match at the round is so important, because if both of those teams want to launch themselves into a title race, or at least away from the bottom couple of teams, they need to win. Both teams can't win, and that's why this match at the round is so exciting. The Polonia boys were the success story of 2024, but this rainy night brings us here on a time where they haven't started the season so well. They cannot afford to rest on their laurels. We're here to find out what's going on down at 𝗕𝗢𝗧 and Chopin Park. I'm joined by the two Cullen boys that you know best, of course, Shan and Michael, who's the co-coach and captain as well. And Huss has joined, an influencer in the making, I've been told. We'll leave his @ and his handle right there. Now, boys, thanks so much for joining us. Michael, I go straight to you. Talk to me about pre-season, the trials, the training. How did you guys come out of the blocks heading into a new division this year?
Obviously, this year we had a big transition phase because we pretty much restructured our whole Resi squad. So pretty much the pre-season phase, we're still building for a big section of the season. So very late with pre-season, the training, very late with the games. But yeah, we got there towards the end.
What's that been like with Resi? Obviously, this is a first grade oriented podcast, but to go from the boys that were in a reserve grade grand final 2 years ago and lost, those guys all went up and moved to Rudy Hill, had a poor season, with the greatest respect to them. Now a new batch that's come in. What's that like for your depth, having to chop and change so many times over the last couple of years?
I think this year it's been great because obviously transitioning from Div 2 to Div 1, you slowly do have to leave some of the boys behind, unfortunately, and even some of your first grade guys will start being your reserve grades. So obviously it's a big transition. Now it starts gelling, so you know what we're like. We tend to get better as the season goes, so hopefully we can get there.
Certainly we've come to experience that under this batch of players. Shannon, welcome back to playing football. It's been great to see you on dribble lists again after a long injury layoff. Remind the competition what happened to you and obviously what you've just told me off camera as well. What's happening at the moment? What's going on with you?
Unfortunately, I'm going to be missing this weekend's game. Just come off like pretty much a full season knee injury. So obviously I had a good pre-season. Maybe I came back a bit too early. Hopefully my physio is not watching this because she'd be very upset. And now just from the knee surgery, I've got a hamstring tendon graft, and then now I've tore the hamstring tendon, probably 4 to 6 weeks, which, you know, blessing and a curse. Like, it could have been the knee again, but yeah. So we move on. We've got the players to pick it up and hopefully get the result this weekend.
It was meant to obviously be part of the All-Star squad last year. Couldn't happen. Was one of the players of the year, and the referee votes did indicate that, especially on a per-game ratio. Hopefully we get to see you again soon. Huss, welcome to the podcast. I'm not sure about your background with Blacktown football, but tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've ended up here tonight.
Yeah, sure. So it's my first season in Blacktown comp. It's quite competitive. It's quite nice. I think Polonia's welcomed me really nice as well. I was in the Hills comp previously for 5 years with the Rousel Ramps, and unfortunately they weren't a team this year. So I jumped ship to Blacktown. Heard good things about it, and Michael and the boys opened me with good arms. So yeah.
Obviously, you are a fan of football at all levels, as people will be able to find out by clicking on your @ of course. Tell us about how you found the promotion, the treatment of Blacktown Premier League teams, the way we sort of handle our competitions. Are you enjoying yourself here so far?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's run brilliantly. I think, the chop and changing when it's raining, the chop and changing of the ability to chop and change grounds is pretty good. Hillscombe didn't have that. And obviously with the podcast as well, with a lot of exposure, I was familiar with this, but not to this extent. But I think it's quite exciting. I think it'll invite a lot of players as well, and I think it's been positive so far.
Well, thank you certainly for putting up your hand tonight. Michael, let's get a bit more serious and into the more nitty-gritty football stuff. The form has not been good enough so far from the first 6 games of the season, but obviously there could be reasons for that, which we're here to unpack. Let's start with the Tigers game. Obviously, we spoke to Tigers last week about this game. 2-2, they stated on this podcast that they hit the post twice and felt like it was 2 points dropped for them. So they felt like they were the better team. What do you think about that?
I think it was just an ugly game. You come down the Chopping Park when it's raining and it's a disgrace. So I think that was a big factor. Both goals, both ends actually, the keepers were just dropping it like blatantly in front of the goal. So I think in a dry surface, it's a completely different game. You know how it gets when it rains. I think we put it on them if we can get a dry surface.
Okay. Shan, I go to you. Maybe just a quick statement. Do you think what they said about having 2 points dropped on their end, is that sort of correct, or do you think that the point shared was a bit more of a fair reflection of it?
Listen, like Michael said, at Chopping Park, it can be a bit rough out there. I can ask Marion about that 2-1 win they had against us. They were struggling a bit. Ball doesn't sit the way you want it to at Chopping Park. We're sort of used to it because we train on it. But I don't think they'd be disappointed with 2 points lost. I think it was a competitive game, but I don't think by any means they deserve to leave with 3. Probably same for us as well, though. So.
Fair reflection from both the Cullen boys. I actually was going to ask you about the Marion game because, at least arguably on paper, it's the best result. Obviously, the team that's so far 7 from 7 right now. Talk to us about Marion. You were ahead for 60 minutes. They came back and just did their typical Marion thing. Did it feel like you were in that one?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We went in at half-time up. And they were definitely feeling it too. I'm not sure what they had said in the change room, but they came out firing sort of that first 10 minutes. We seem to sort of switch off in moments in the game, and I think that's what's sort of costing us these losses. So we're starting off very strong and we're playing good football, but then we're falling asleep for 2 or 3 minutes, and then, you know, in this league, fall asleep for a couple of minutes, you can find yourself 2-3-0 down. So I think it's more so just trying to keep cool-headed and play for 90 minutes. Marion's a team that's going to play for 90 minutes, and if we're going to play for 60, well, then that's the result it's not going to go our way.
Funny, you actually keep answering questions before I ask them. I'm actually going to ask you, Huss, about the Polonia first grade game and most recently Quakers Juniors. On the weekend just gone by, a shipping of 10 goals between those 2 games. Again, I know that you're equal right now with Tigers on 1 point in first grade, but probably not good enough to sustain throughout the season if you want to stay in the division. I'll be black and white about it. I know from that Ponds game, firsthand, I saw the frustrations, particularly with the back line. I get how frustrating it is to play when a team is just in flow state against you. But against Quakers Juniors, not as good as Ponds, but they were still able to put a lot of goals. So do you have anything to add in terms of what Shan said about switching off? Is there something else that could be added onto that, or do you think it's the same sort of thing? It's just switching off?
I think switching off is a big aspect. I think one of it is that we're not able to, have a consistent starting 11 due to injuries, as you can probably see by Shannon. You can see by Michael as well. He was injured for the past couple of games, and there's a lot of switch and changing of the midfield as well. The front line is not clicking as much as we would like to. We do have the players, we do have the quality, but it's just that we need that chemistry to build within the players. And I don't think that's happening at the moment because of the injuries. There's a couple of players that got injured. When they come back, there's a new bunch that are injured as well. So that lack of consistency, I think once we get that on track, I think we'll get a few points on the board for sure.
Okay. One thing I should have asked you about is the state of where you're at physically as well, because obviously you had some time off last year, Shan, but Michael, yours was even more documented, even better known throughout the comp. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I'm back this weekend. So I'm back this weekend. Last weekend I was out because my hamstring as well. Just same thing. I think pushing those games, like especially in our first grade, we do go in a little bit short. So all of us are playing 90 minutes. So I think we're killing ourselves in terms of getting through the whole game, and that's why we probably do concede a lot of goals in the back end, like Quakers Hill. We're running a little bit short in the first grade in terms of subs because we do have those injuries, or we are a little bit short, and we have transitioned a lot more new players in just recently. So we've literally just signed 4 more new players. So okay. It's going to be a lot different, I think, going forward now, because now we are going to build 2 structured teams and start playing.
Tell us about them.
They're great. I think I'm trying to think where they came from.
2 Ponds guys.
2 ex-Ponds guys. Mm-hmm. So we got Reg and Jason. They're both great. We got a Veet. I don't even know where he's played, but he's come over. But he's definitely a first grade starter. So, and then we got a few young boys in the Rezzies. So last weekend was prime in Quakers Hill with the Rezzies. we got to watch them in that game, and some of them could probably play first grade. So that's probably why we got the result in the 𝗕𝗢𝗧𝗛 reserve grade. So I think now, as the weeks go, we're going to be swapping and changing a lot to see which ones can make the first grade, and it's a lot more competition for the boys too. So training's going to be a lot more intense.
Excellent, and good to hear. Now, I do have to go back to you on this because I'm going to quote myself from a couple of weeks ago when I did my predictions podcast. I said that the injuries last year were testament to that 5-game slump where you lost 4 of those games and you almost let Glenwood back into the comp. You didn't in the end, obviously, and got promoted. But if this is happening again, if players are having weddings or going overseas, whatever it is, what's going on with this injury crisis, this absence crisis? What is it with Polonia and just not having a starting 11 all the time?
I think now it was that transition phase from Div 2 to Div 1. I think a lot of the boys, some of the boys in the team got a big wake-up call that the division is a lot different. So obviously, as you'd know from all the past years, going from Div 1 to Div 2 to Div 1, the teams do tend to sit around the bottom, and it's because of that transition phase. And if you struggle to get a lot of new players, it makes it very difficult to be competitive. So I think like this week and the last month, we've been transitioning new players in so we can have that competitive environment just so we can compete in first grade. And at the moment, we've been running with a short 11 with not many subs or really tired reserve grade players. So you see us lose in the back end. Like 𝗕𝗢𝗧𝗛, I think the 80th minute, they scored their second goal to make it even, and then they took over from there. So I think if I have 3 or 4 on the bench, that kills our excuse of like making mistakes in that back half. And even with this week with Riverstone, I think we're stacked to go the whole 90 minutes. So I think we're looking at a better game this weekend.
Perfect transition once again. So let's talk about Riverstone coming up. Riverstone are also a team, A, who wear red, but B, are a team that other teams have said are hard to play against. So people have said, particularly Marion, have said you're hard to play against. Marion's also said that Riverstone's hard to play against. So you're a team, both of you, that probably could be further up the table if you get your act together, just to put a blanket statement out there. So it will be really interesting from that sense to see who can bear fruit from the match of the round. But the question becomes, you don't want to be Shannon, you don't want to be a yo-yo club, you don't want to go up and then come straight back down. How important is this match of the round for getting yourselves out of the scrap that you're in?
I think all the games with the teams that are not sort of the big sort of 3, which is your Doonside, Marion and Ponds, they're all crucial. Especially the points we dropped against Tigers, that's crucial. Points we dropped against 𝗕𝗢𝗧𝗛 Juniors, that's crucial. And if we drop points again this weekend, it's going to be crucial. Especially with all the chopping and changing that's been going on. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of the season. We could find ourselves needing three points to avoid relegation. We could find ourselves needing 3 points to get into the top 4. We don't know. But every game in PL1 is crucial. And every game is hard. So it's not the same as PL2 in that aspect where a lot of the times you'll go into the PL2 comp and you have one easy game, then a hard game, and then the game will slow down. Next game's easy game. This one, everything's high intensity. You make a mistake, you find yourself 2-3-0 down, sometimes 6, like we've seen in the Ponds game. Like, you can't really fall asleep, and that's going to be the same scenario for this weekend. We can't fall asleep, and we've got to try and get the 3 points.
In terms of Riverstone specifically, a physical team, which maybe for a team that's struggling with injuries and staying in games for 90 minutes is maybe an Achilles heel for you guys. You would want to hope not. But aside from just rehashing exactly what I've said, what do you know about Riverstone? How are you setting up against them this weekend?
I think I watched them against the Blacktown Workers game because we had a bye that week, I think. And same thing, I think they're pretty flary up front. They got like a pretty good midfielder with good ball skills. Mm-hmm. I think what I watched from them from that Workers game was they'd attack for a very long duration, but then they'd just let a goal in very easily. So we're kind of very good at holding the ball and playing that game of soccer for a long period of time properly. And I think that if we can just manage their front 3 without them attacking too much, I think we can take over on that back line, because that back line looked very shaky when I watched it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Shan, finish this off. Toughest question goes to you, but short and simple. Where are you finishing this year?
I think we will sit roughly 4th or 5th. It'll be a challenge, but I think we might just sneak into the 4th.
Okay, a finals push is coming to 𝗕𝗢𝗧𝗛 as the season goes on. It will take a monumental turnaround in form, but if anyone is capable, it is this Polonia team when they can string their best 11 together for a couple of weeks. Both these two teams have said on record now that they think that they are better than what they deserve to be on the table, although Polonia did preface it by saying, or at least not preface, explain it by saying that they have had injuries and some reasons for absences. some of those players are coming back. So the time has to be now, if not very, very soon. And a match of the round is a great place to springboard your season. Let's have a look at some of the key fixtures coming up this weekend. While the match of the round might in fact be between Polonia and Riverstone, I would be taking a really keen look at 4 p.m. where Marion and Doonside are playing each other. That will occur at Glendenning Reserve, and I'll see you there for the first half, absolutely no doubt. That is, if the weather prevails. In the PL2, the match to watch out for is absolutely, positively, 100% assuredly Town Rangers hosting Minchinbury Jets. 2 of the highest scorers in the PL2 so far this season are going to meet in a match that will melt your freaking eyes. Also, Town Rangers on the podcast next week. You better get ready because I'm going to ask them all the tough questions. The game to watch in the WPL, I would say, is actually between 2 Blacktown teams, as Parkley will go away to Quakers Hill Juniors in what has been a great game in the recent years that they have played in the WPL together. And I think with both teams coming off 3-0 and 4-0 wins respectively, it's going to be a good one as Parkley find their form again. That's going to do it for another episode of the Blacktown Premier League podcast. Thank you so much for getting to this point of the episode. If you have gotten to this point, it means you either fell asleep while watching it or, most likely, and I hope, you actually enjoyed watching it. So if you did, please like the video, because what it means is the more people like it, the more people get it in their algorithm. The more people get it in their algorithm means the more people are going to watch it. The more people that watch it, and especially externally, means that they're going to look at the Blacktown comp and be like, hey, this is the comp to watch because so much cool stuff is happening here. Then when people say, hey, there's so much cool stuff happening here, they're going to want to come and trial for your clubs as well, raising the level of the competition, and therefore Blacktown Premier League gets better week on week on week, month on month on month, year on year on year. Did I stutter once? Maybe. Did I slur my words? Definitely. But do I mean every single word that I say? Yes. Like the video, get more people watching, get more people keen, get more people here on Grand Final Day. That's why you need to like the video. It's important. Thank you so much. My name is Mark DePoli. Pleasure to have you here. Good luck to both of the match of the teams this week, and give us a great show, and good luck to the rest of the teams playing. And I've spoken way too much. I'll see you next time. Peace out. Oh, cue the outro music. But it's fallen here towards Icon!
Oh my word.
And now played and struck and in! Further forward now, Tagura! Ryan Dominici! Wants a second goal. Isabel Greb should have a second goal! And finishes with ease!